I thought I'd try my hand for a brand new character for this character request series and continue to bring even more new faces that can be in this game or maybe a sequel if there is one if there is one that actually exists. Now, the one thing I want to say before I get started about this character is that I had so much fun being able to do the research and watch episodes and even some additional clips of some of the best pranks that Big Nate has pulled throughout the show. And I know that the recent newest series or the newest season just started on Paramount, and I think this character has got to be the most likely to be added into a brand new game if there is a sequel, because he's a modern show, he's getting promoted, and there's even more episodes planned for Big Nate. So I think he is definitely an ideal pick for the sequel and someone that we could just see in the next game if it is one to be announced. So I just want to say this. I'm not expecting anything tomorrow because some people were talking about Nickelodeon Games panel for upcoming titles. Who knows if that's going to be something real and something that's going to come to fruition or mean something to be announced for tomorrow. New Nickelodeon announcements, new announcements at some point, but I'm not banking on it to be able to be announced for some kind of sequel. We're gonna have to wait and see what they're up to. I feel like we probably could have gotten something last week for the game's anniversary, but I guess we'll see what happens if Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 is something really real, and maybe a character like Big Nate or Nate Wright can get into the game as a new character, and I think I can definitely see him as a new face to be able to shine in this roster. But I wanted to just keep it on this screen as we be able to talk about this game, and just we're gonna all just talk about Big Nate. And if you haven't seen it, I recently started watching the show and recently only just gotten into the show and watching some of the episodes when putting these ideas together. And for me, I like putting the research in and referencing some episodes so the character in the moveset made sense. He is just another prankster to be able to join, and him being a prankster alone, skipping class and dodging and avoiding tests and exams, it just makes him a little bit of a sneaky different character. And just being a prankster in general makes the moveset potential even more unique, and just the capability of the character, what he can do. And yet a new show that can be represented in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl with all of these missing shows. It doesn't have to be all the newest modern characters. It could be so many other characters missing from the past all the way to the present to make this roster really just even more bigger than what it is if there is a new game, for the devs to be able to follow up and expand, where they don't have to keep coming out with a new game all the time. You keep what you have and you can build it and make it even bigger than what it is already, which I was hoping they would have did with this game, but maybe there's a chance for a new one. But let's start talking about Big Nate, the show. Nate Wright, it's all about him today. And as far as tomorrow goes, we'll just probably see what happens, and I'm just going to continue to stay in the middle, see what comes out, and see when the facts come out if there's really some kind of game. I'm starting to feel like the game is probably not even going to be able to come out this year. It might even be something different, but I guess we'll see. But now let's start talking about the backstory, and you guys can be able to get to know Big Nate from watching this. And if you don't want to watch the video all the way in full, everything I mentioned and all my ideas are going to be listed in the description, so you're not forced to watch the whole entire video. You could see what all the ideas I came up and references, and scroll through the description for all the ideas that I came up with today. So the backstory for the show, if you haven't seen it, Big Nate, is just a new show that recently came out from last year, I think. And there's a new season that just came out from earlier this month, from last week, or earlier in July. So the story of this show, or basically the plot, it follows the adventures of Nate Wright, who hates school. He hangs out alongside of his friends. He's in the 6th grade, and he's struggling to pass these classes. And the reason why he's not passing these classes is because he's continuing to skip class, and he's not participating and showing up And when there's the exam, he's nowhere to be found, and all of his teachers are trying to find out, where's Nate? He's still not in his class. And when he is in class, he's always trying to look for a way out to get out of it. And the friends that he hangs out with in the show occasionally get in trouble with him alongside of it. And some of his best friends, Teddy and Francis, alongside of him, get into trouble. There's so many other characters that I'm going to talk about. There's several other characters I'll mention, just a couple others I'll mention in just a bit. But all the friends that he hangs out with in the show, they join him on these pranks, these schemes, and all the different ideas he has through these episodes. And he's always planning something new to try to escape, to get out of class and do whatever he can to avoid doing his homework and all the things that he has to do for his assignments, and so much and so more, so on and so forth, for what he has to do for whatever class he's attending for that particular episode. So he loves to pull pranks and draw cartoons, and the fact that he's a prankster was key to me in helping me create some ideas for him of the type of pranks he can come up with, referencing some of the things that he does in these shows and the pranks that he pulls on his older sister, and his friends, and so much more with teachers and even in the classroom. But that's just a little backstory of the plot of the show, and every episode has a different adventure and a whole new different sort of scheme or a prank that he's trying to pull when you go and watch this show. So I definitely recommend it. I'm liking this show. I'm definitely going to watch more episodes for it. It's new to me. And some of you guys, I know some of you guys watch the show, and some people are huge fans of Big Nate and think that he deserves a spot in this game, and just being a new character, I think he definitely has a good shot getting in. But now that we talked about a little bit of his backstory and a little bit about the plot, and just in a short version of the plot and what it's about when you go and watch this show and what kind of character he is, we're going to start talking about the stage. So I picked one ideal stage in this game that can be added with him as a DLC. He probably wouldn't be added into the base roster. If he's not, it could come out with him as DLC. So the public school 38, this is actually Nate's school that he attends in the show. So I think this was definitely more, there's no other stage in this show that can take place and be added into this game for a DLC if Nate comes out as one of the first characters that they decide to go for a new face, a new modern show for Nickelodeon. But I think they would really want him in this game anyway, or at least try to get him. But I think this is more ideal. And when you think about the stages that's in this game, from all the stages, got Ghost Zone and all that, and it made me think of Hey Arnold, because the PS stage, I forgot the track name for Nickelodeon Kart Racers 3, that's a school that's a playable track in the other games, well, in the Kart Racers game. But that particular area or that particular location doesn't exist in this game. They don't have a school of that particular facility in this game. So I think this is something that they can do for the next game, to have an actual school get added. They don't have an academy or anything like that, and there's so much more that they can do to make the stages even more unique. They didn't even add the school from the Loud House. You only just have the Loud House from in which all the siblings live in, from all the Louds. They don't have that kind of stage in this game. So I thought the public school 38, where Nate and all of his friends attend, can be the ideal stage for him. And then some ideas that I threw in here from my little notes. It doesn't just have to be the school. The devs can add in background characters, similar to how we have the Flying Dutchman and Winslow in the background for Cat Doll's house, things like that. And you got Gary chilling under the platform in Jellyfish Fields, things like that, and Mondo Gecko for Sewer Slam on the stage. For background characters for Big Nate's stage for his school, they can add in his best friends Francis and Teddy, and then Nate's crush Jenny, and then Artur, and then his nemesis considered in the show, the school's Godzilla, that I ended up, digging and doing some research on Mrs. Godfrey. Since he hates his social studies teacher, why not have some of those characters appear in the background? And then plus a variety of other students and teachers that are part of the show, like his gym teacher, because he was on the verge of being able to, he was on the verge of failing gym. His gym teacher can be a background character. The devs have a lot of different options to be able to add other background characters that are part of Nate's world, and that bully Randy from his neighborhood. From when you go and watch the show, there's so many characters that they can add into his background. See what I'm saying? So they can do something like that as just some kind of ideal character. And then even just other background characters. You got Grandpa Loose sleeping in the background on the Reptar stage for the Teeter-Totter Gulch. See what I'm saying? So they can do stuff like that for Big Nate. Get those characters in the background, even if they're not playable. So those are just some ideas for the stages I wanted to share. And now I'm going to move on to the costumes. I think he can have a good amount of costumes. Maybe not just one costume where he's rocking just a hat. See what I'm talking about? Just not like a hat, just more that they can get. Maybe more than one costume. And hopefully, if there is a new game, these other characters can have more than one costume. So the first costume I went for, as a little bit of a reference, maybe they can get his comic strip design, the comic version of Nate Wright. See how they did Eastman Leonardo, and then you got Eastman Michelangelo? Maybe they can do something of that similar level. And this is from the comics that you guys are talking about. Maybe they can do that for Nate Wright. So that was the first costume I selected. And then from watching some other shows and other episodes from Big Nate, his figure skating outfit that was pink and yellow, because he hates figure skating, but he had to figure skate if he wanted to pass the gym class, and he didn't have to repeat the 6th grade gym class all over again. And then I also pulled another costume that he wore, his yellow and blue hoodie with the blue gloves and his red and white winter hat from the figure skating episode. So you guys can be able to see both of those costumes if you go and watch this episode, and you can even look it up here on YouTube for free, and you can see him rocking those two costumes for the figure skating. When he starts figure skating and trying to find a partner, he's wearing the pink and yellow outfit. I thought it was purple at first, but it's pink and yellow from the figure skating episode. And then a goofy little bit of an add-on. It made me think of how they changed a little bit of Zim's look. See, some of y'all might think this is a little bit silly, but I put Nate Wright's Pimple. I thought this would be a cool little silly idea for the developers. Nate Wright's Pimple could be part of his costume. So the player can either put the pimple on Nate Wright while they get to change his clothes and his outfit. He can have the pimple wearing his figure skating outfit as a little bit of an idea. But this episode is pretty funny because his pimple was granting all miracles and all the wishes. It was like a magical pimple on his head that every time anyone touched his pimple on his face, all their wishes would come true and all their problems would get solved. So I thought this would be a unique costume or a nice little touch for them to add for Nate Wright. Put his pimple in the game as something silly. I almost made it into a move. I almost did, but I just put it in his costumes instead. So you can check this out from the Blessed Be the Pimple episode. That's the actual name of it. So you guys can check that out if you want. So I just thought that would be something just funny and creative for them to slide in. And then his last ones, see how Lucy got shades. Nate has sunglasses that he wears in the show. So for the summer vibes, it could be something like that. But I hope that's not the only costume they add. Just give him a sunglasses, something like that. And then just stop with no more costumes for him. The other one I added, I was trying to see if there was a Halloween episode, and there was. It's called Ghostly Coven of Man Witches episode. You guys can check this out. He wore a Jason Voorhees looking mask And during this episode, he was trying to avoid the science test, and his way of getting out of it was trying to prove to everyone in the school that the entire place was haunted. So that was his goal, and his friends joined alongside of him, joined him to try to get in on this whole little prank to scare the entire school. So that's the Ghostly Coven of Man Witches episode that I got it from for his little Halloween mask. So 2 little simple costumes they can get. Little Halloween mask for it. Just, it looks like Jason Voorhees, almost something similar to it, like a hockey mask, spooky looking hockey mask, and then sunglasses. So 2 simple ones, and then some other ones that they can add to make it even better. Now for the taunts and animations, always try to find out the characters' best quotes and what they're known by. Now Potter toast, just different things, how they did certain characters, and they say their iconic voice lines. 3 a.m. It's a special iconic quote just for things like that. I always try to do that for these new characters that I put together. So his catchphrase, Nate Wright knows no fear. That's right, I'm speaking in third person. That would be funny for him to say as a little bit of an arcade quote, or maybe something during the single player mode like story, for example. And then part of being awesome is keeping the fans happy. And then how he says, I've got a plan. Things like that. I'm awesome. Some little voice lines. And then a little bit of an animation for a little taunt. From the Picture Day episode that I got it from, he can use a water bottle and Nate can drink from it and he can spit water out. Just to try to tease the opponent and play around. Just some kind of goofy little taunt for him. But I couldn't really find any other catchphrase or any sort of quotes that he can possibly say for this game. And maybe some of you guys can probably share some of the quotes if you guys watch the show of things that he could possibly say, and maybe some taunts as some ideas. But now I'm going to move on to the moveset, my favorite part of creating these characters to wrap up. So Big Nate is known, or Nate Wright is known for being a prankster, and he's always planning his every move. So just something different, and they don't have these kind of characters that's pulling these pranks and these tricks in the roster, but someone who does, similar things, or like something of a projectile attack like pies, for example. That's something that could possibly get involved into a prank, throwing pies or something like that. But now it's going to be different for Nate, so I'm going to get ready to get started. So the first thing that really caught my attention, I want to bring to the table right now, I'm just going to mention him. Spitzy, the dog, I almost wanted to put him in his moveset, but it's not his dog. Spitzy is his neighbor's dog, but Spitzy has been in some of those episodes and played a role. So I was thinking about Rocco Spunky, Rocco's dog Spunky, to see how he summons, and then Zim can summon Gert on the field. I thought about putting Spitzy in his moveset, but since it's not his dog, I did not put him in his moveset. I was gonna go for him right away, but instead, if you guys check out the sibling pranks that he does against his sister, the banana Gatling gun, I wanted to put this in here first, because this will be easily one of the best, coolest looking moves. I hope they really add that for him, where Nate can fire several bananas rapidly across the screen to inflict damage on all enemies in range, and he has to be standing still. He won't be able to move while using this Gatling gun, because he was firing all those bananas on his sister in the kitchen when his older sister was originally trying to prank him and was getting ready to throw all the pies at him in the kitchen. So it was like a sibling battle in the kitchen, and Nate ended up taking over and winning the fight, even though he got pied in the face. It was still a cool little move that really gave me a unique idea. This definitely is something that deserves to be in his moveset. This Gatling gun full of bananas that he can fire on all these characters across the range. So if he's dealing with a crowd, he'll be able to hit everybody and just be able to unleash everything. So the next move, the air horn, and I also picked this up from the sibling pranks war against his big sister, where they both had air horns and was using it against each other. Nate can sound off using his air horn that can launch enemies across the screen, that are nearby. And I try to do something a little bit additional for it. So even if you're further away and you're outside the range of his air horn, it's going to be even more deadlier if you're up close. You know, air horns that be so loud hurt your ears. Even if you're further away, you can still be stunned temporarily from the noise it creates. Maybe that sounds a little bit too overpowered, where it can still be able to do something to you even when you're outside of his range. But I wanted to make him even more dangerous by doing that for his air horn. Now, Big Nate skipping out on his homework, or Nate Wright skipping his homework, I wanted to utilize and add that into his move pool. So I just put homework for this move as a projectile attack, where Nate can throw paper balls to permanently get rid of a year's worth of homework he's gotten out of doing from excuses. And it's something that he actually said in the show. He hid all his homework, or all the homework that he has in his locker, he skipped out on doing, and he still kept it in his locker over a year's worth of homework that he didn't even do. And he ended up coming up with excuses every single time of why he didn't have his homework and he didn't complete it, he didn't have his assignments. So I thought, why not utilize his homework and make it into an attack where he can throw it as a projectile in paper balls. You see how people just be throwing them at each other sometimes in the classroom. Why not use that as a projectile attack? He can toss and they can slowly move across the screen. And then maybe they can mess around with the button mechanics. You can see how Hugh Neutron can throw ducks, and you hold the button down, he throws it in different arcs. But they come at you at the same speed, but he throws them in different arcs, you know, upwards, diagonally, or just across. Maybe if you hold the button down, the paper ball can come flying at you a little bit faster as he rolls it up. Just a little extra mechanics for them to do. Now, I slipped in something that's a little bit of a prankster, something that he did in the classroom where he pranked, I think it was Gina, I think her name was, in the classroom, and he quickly snatched her water bottle and put a jar of frogs, and the frogs came out flying and attacking her, and they were all over her. So I put leapfrogs in his moveset, where Nate can drop a jar of frogs to summon on the field. See how I was talking about Spitzy, the dog, his neighbor's dog? I went with the frogs instead, so he can bring out these frogs to leap at the enemy, and they can be destroyed or avoided. So see how you can hit Gurr and he explodes, but he can still hit you somehow, which he creates an explosion. But Spunky, he can be destroyed and removed off the field right away. No one else in this game has summons besides these two, Zim and Rocco. So I wanted to give Nate something like that with the frogs to be able to jump at you and cause some ruckus on the field. So 2 frogs would come out of the jar, similar to the show. And then something that he calls stealth mode. Time to go into stealth mode on the picture day episode. So I call this stealth mode. So Nate can use his stealth mode from inside a garbage can, a unique blocking mechanic. Because you see how people have the same throw. I wanted to give him something different for a unique guarding or blocking sort of mechanic, where Nate can use his stealth mode from inside the garbage can to protect himself, and while he's inside of this garbage can, he can reflect all incoming projectile attacks. So Garfield trying to throw all those pies as fast and as amazing as they are in this game, they'll just be reflected. So I thought this would be dope as a little bit of a unique mechanic, something to make him even more dangerous of a character. So I got this from the picture day episode, and you guys can look this up too. So I wanted to give it something more of a bonus, so it's not just him guarding and protecting himself. He can just be able to stop projectile attacks, and he can reflect them. Now, just getting ready to wrap up, I gave him the spring trap recovery, where Nate can break his fall using one of his handy springs to launch himself upwards. And he used this on his friend Teddy in the classroom when he was trying to sit down at his desk in the classroom. It launched Teddy right into the roof, right through the roof. This could be something that he can use on himself to quickly save himself from falling off the stage into the blast zone. So I couldn't think of any other recovery, but this seems to make the most sense for a recovery move for a prankster like Nate to use a spring trap to get himself, to save himself, and he's always prepared and planning. And with these moves, this is definitely the last one, which each character that I continue to come out with and create for you guys and some of y'all requests, I'm starting to put together more ultimate attacks ever since I did my own. So the ultimate attack that I gave Nate is the ultimate prank, where Nate can he brings out everything he has, puts all the stops, and he can drop multiple traps on the field and he can launch projectiles in random directions, including pies, banana peels on the field, spitballs, steam bombs that explode upon landing, water balloons, and so much more for a limited amount of time. So he can cover the screen with so many of these different items that's gonna be able to take over, and it's gonna be a little bit spammy because all these pranks and all these traps and things like that is gonna be everywhere. Water balloons exploding, and then steam bombs. You gotta have to basically watch out for everything. You're gonna get hit by something, so you're not gonna be able to escape this. So I thought this would be some kind of unique ultimate attack that they can give them. And then a little bit of the bonus, Nate's attacks also have increased damage and can stun you for a limited amount of time. But you see that some of y'all was talking about rock paper scissors, that rock paper scissors thing that happens when the characters get stunned. That can happen during how the characters just be wobbling, and then it makes that little balloon noise, things like that. It's funny to see. It can have you in that little bit of that rock paper scissors state. You see when they're blinking and flashing red, something like that. It can put you in that state if they decide to bring that back into the second game, for example. So you'll be stun locked. So just because you think you're getting away from some of those pranks and some of those traps you're dodging, you're still gonna get stunned with all that stuff when you get hit by something. And then he'll be able to hit you again because you're stunned, and then he'll be able to basically finish you off. And then everybody else that's on the field, they're going to have to watch out too, because they will also be stunned if they get hit by one little projectile or one little bit of these traps that he has that's going all over the place. He's bringing out everything he has, all the tricks that he has up his sleeve for this ultimate attack during this ultimate prank for his ultimate attack that I gave him. But that's everything I can come up with for Big Nate. I hope he gets into the next game. I really like this show. This is one of the newest shows I'm really getting into from watching the episodes and more. I definitely recommend the show if you're looking for something new to watch. And I think he has a really high chance of getting added as a newcomer. Let me know what you guys think about these ideas. But just like I mentioned, you don't have to watch the full video. It's all going to be in the description for all my ideas and everything that I came up with him. I definitely had fun doing the research, getting to know this character for who he is, because I'm new to Nate. And even some of y'all probably didn't even watch the show. It's definitely a great show, and I think he's going to be a good addition for the developers to add. And I'm sure probably Nickelodeon will probably want him in the game, with all the promotion that it can do for the show, and just him being a prankster, it just makes him that more unique of a character.